In a dusty attic of an ancient Victorian house, there was an ornate ebony piano, a family heirloom. It had been passed down for generations, each recipient swearing to cherish it as much as the last. But this piano, with its gleaming black keys and intricate carvings, held a dark secret. It was said that the piano played on its own at midnight, a haunting melody that drifted through the empty halls of the house. Initially, the family believed it to be the spirit of their beloved grandfather, a skilled pianist who had adored the instrument in life. They would often sit by the piano, reminiscing and listening to the ghostly music, feeling a sense of comfort. However, as time passed, the tunes changed. They grew more complex, more ominous, instilling a sense of dread in the listeners. The family began to avoid the attic, but the music would find its way to them, creeping into their dreams and thoughts. The youngest of the family, Cindy, was particularly drawn to the piano. She would sneak into the attic, drawn by the music, and sit for hours, watching the keys move on their own. Her parents warned her to stay away, but the melody had ensnared her. One stormy night, as lightning illuminated the attic and thunder rumbled, Cindy witnessed something that chilled her to the bone. As the piano played, a figure materialized on the bench. It was not her grandfather, but a dark shadow entity with piercing red eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. It turned to Sydney, and with a voice as smooth as silk and as cold as ice, it spoke. "Come closer, child," it beckoned. "I have been waiting for you." Terrified, Sydney wanted to run, but her feet wouldn't move. She was entranced, hypnotized by the entity's gaze. "You see this piano? It's just not any instrument," the figure continued, its fingers dancing over the keys, producing a melody so haunting it made Sydney's heart ache. "It is a gateway, a conduit for souls, and I, my dear, am its keeper." The entity revealed itself to be the devil, and the piano was his tool. Used to lure souls to hell, he had been playing the piano each night, not to entertain, but to beckon. And now he had set his sights on Sydney. "I have watched you, Sydney. You have a gift, a soul ripe for the taking. Join me, and you can play this piano for eternity." Sydney, tears streaming down her face, knew she had to make a choice. The devil's offer was tempting, the power of the music undeniable, but she also knew the price of such a deal. As she weighed her decision, the devil played on, the melody growing more intense, filling the attic with a palpable energy. Just as Sydney was about to speak, the clock struck midnight, and the house shook with a force so strong it knocked her to the ground. The piano stopped playing, and for a moment there was silence. Then, without warning, the piano burst into flames, the fire consuming it in seconds. The devil let out a roar of anger and vanished into the smoke. Sydney, coughing and gasping, crawled out of the attic, the last notes of the piano echoing in her mind. The next morning, the family found the attic empty, the piano gone without a trace. They believed it to be a tragic accident, unaware of the true horror that had transpired. Sydney never spoke of what happened that night, but she was changed. She became withdrawn, haunted by the memory of the devil and the music. The family eventually moved out of the house, leaving its secrets behind. But the story doesn't end there. Years later, in an antique shop in a distant town, a piano identical to the one that had burned appeared. It sat there, silent and waiting for the next unexpected soul to discover its melody. And so the legacy of the devil's piano continues, its music echoing through time, a siren song for those who dare to listen. Thank you for listening to I Heard Music Coming from My Grandpa's Old Piano. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. And I hope all of you have a fantastic night.